You created the Trick Like a Girl community to encourage more girls to get involved with tricking and free running martial arts. Why do you think that these are still male dominated activities?
I think a major thing is kind of the intimidation factor. If you're going to a gathering, or even if you're just going to like an open gym as like a gymnast or cheerleader, and you'll see these group of boys just and very little girls, and that as an outsider, that's just very intimidating when you don't have
Yeah.
someone you can like immediately connect to. I think once you get to know everyone, the community is great. Like everyone is so supportive and invested in everyone's success, especially coming from like a competitive sport where that isn't necessarily true.
Okay, let's get to know more about you with a few Spillet's Just Curious questions. As a 25-time world champion martial artist, which I must say is amazing, which tournament do you never want to miss if possible?
Well, first, thank you. I think the I went to the WAKO Worlds in 2018, and I think any world championship or international tournament where there's a lot of countries coming together is just an amazing experience. Um,
Yes.
and I love traveling, so I like being able to say like, "Oh, I went to Italy for a tournament." That's so fun. That's like an added bonus. But being able to see everyone come together and kind of get that like pseudo Olympic feel is great, and I love that. So I would definitely not pass up on a trip to like the World Championships or really any world
Exactly.
event.
That's what I also loved, like, with WKC is how, of course, there were a few people who are only rooting for their country, but, like, there are so many people who are it's just like, "I'm rooting for everyone, like, you all showed up here, you all earned your spot here, like, good for you, just hope you do well."
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of fun, and again, it's, like, just one big community, but it just goes to show, like, even if you feel alone in the community, you're not. There's so many other people here around you who are there to support you, and so I think that's another thing. It kinda also helps with, like, mental health as well, so track
Yes.
karate, it's good for mental health.
Yes.
Little advertisements in here. Who are your top 3 people that you looked up to or who inspired you to get into tricking?
Um, I don't know if I would say there was like 3 people actually. I think like the 3rd spot kind of switches out with whoever I'm really watching or whoever I'm kind of yeah, whoever I'm really kind of like obsessed with their style at the moment. But I think the top 2 for me who are like consistent were Kenzie Emery and Kiki Okubo. Kenzie, she like obviously she kind of pioneered tricking for girls. And
Yeah,
I used to watch her tutorials before like Kojo's and Adrenaline came out. Um, and I would see her at Naska tournaments, and I get a lot of comments saying my style is very similar to hers, and I think that
yeah,
makes sense because she was really who I was emulating. And then Kiki, she's a good friend of mine, and I love her style and creativity. It's unmatched in my opinion.
mhm.
Um, so I always remember watching her Instagram videos and trying to do all the stuff that she was doing because it just looked so cool and it's so smooth and the
Definitely.
transitions are great.
I think that's the beautiful thing with, like, our world now is how we have so much technology, and, like, that's the best thing with social media, I find, is how, like, specifically for anyone in the sports community, is how you have someone to just watch and, like, try and emulate and stuff like that.
Yes, exactly.
And what's the toughest decision you've had to make in the last few months?
That's a good question. Honestly, I think the hardest thing has just been trying to figure out my schedule for the next year and
Yeah,
even for the
definitely.
summer, because there's just so much things I want to do, but not
Yeah.
enough time to do it.
And what were you doing last time you looked at the clock and realized you had lost track of time?
So I was I had a summer research fellowship. I was doing cell culture work, which is basically you're taking care of human cells that were growing on dishes to later use for experiment. I think cell culture is fascinating. It was my favorite set of experiments that I learned over the course of my 2 months. But also, you're in a windowless room and you're at the sitting at this like biohood, which is a machine that recycles the air and has like artificial UV light. So it's like very cut off from like everything that's going on around it. So if you're doing like very extensive work, it just goes by so quickly. And I
Okay,
actually
well, that's
almost
good.
missed my shuttle to go home from work just because I lost track of time. Thankfully, I made it, but it was definitely that
Jeez.
was a major. I always say time does not exist in the solid culture room because of that experience.
Oh my gosh. What are the conditions that bring your best performance to the mat?
Honestly, I think when I'm a little bit angry or a little bit frustrated, those are some of my best performances. Because personally, I struggle with the performance aspect of martial arts.
Yes.
Like I hate going out there and having to look like fierce and like yell. And being a little bit upset makes it less of a performance and more of like a release. So it kind of helps me with my weaknesses a little bit.
Just from my own personal experiences, you took the words right out of my mouth, like, just honestly. Because it's more just kinda like you mentioned, it's just a release, it's not necessarily, like, acting, kinda hyping up
Yeah.
your performance with some, like, yelling and screaming, some really great, like, stage performance, it's more just, "This is what I'm feeling now. Here, take it." And
Yeah,
now it looks like a
exactly.
performance, so perfect. We finish the interview and you step outside and find a lottery ticket that ends up winning $10 million. What would you do?
Okay, so first things first, I would put as much as I can into a college savings account because college is very, very expensive.
Yes.
Um, Secondly, I would invest some into the stock markets, start saving for retirement now. And then this is the fun answer that I'm assuming what people would be interested in, but I want to travel to Europe. I want to visit like all the countries. So,
Yes,
pending COVID regulations,
of
I
course.
would book my first flight out there.
Definitely. That was a spot on answer. What do you think your unique skill or skills are that have helped you become successful?
I think my stubbornness has helped me a lot. I don't know if it would be considered a unique skill, but I think if you ask my parents, they would say I'm uniquely stubborn. So definitely that has helped me a lot, like persevere through a lot, not give up, do a lot of things out of spite, train out of spite. But it worked out in the end, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And what's something that you're not very good at?
Learning languages, I would say, it just never clicked with me in the academic setting. I was always like pretty good in school, and then I just could never sit down and memorize a bunch of words. Just never worked out.
And now you're given an elephant. You can't give it away or sell it. What do you do with the elephant?
Um, build a well, I need to figure out a way to keep it, and I think first things I would probably go look up what they eat and then make sure I
Yeah,
have proper elephant food because I don't want to starve it.
good
Maybe
idea.
like build a pen or something. I think my neighbors might have a little area I can keep it in because they have a lot of land. Um, but yeah, I try to make the elephant's life as nice as possible. Maybe go
Yeah.
on a little ride on it because I see a lot of that at the circus and it seems fun. But yeah, just want to keep the elephant comfortable and happy.
Of course. And what keeps you up at night?
This is a boring answer, but exams. Literally, I there have been many nights that I'm awaiting exam scores and then I just could not sleep until they came out at like
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. Oh
Yeah,
my
the
gosh.
nerves really bring out the worst, but it'll be over soon.
Yes. Yes. Like, I know how it's a like, supposedly a basic answer, but it makes a lot of sense. Like, those are very important if you wanna pass high
Yeah.
school, and, like, this is your senior year as well, so it's important, so it makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. And what is the best advice you've ever received?
Well, my dad always tells me before going into a tricking session to jump higher and twist faster. I think a lot of times I've landed my best tricks after he just pulls me aside and says, "Jump higher, twist faster." So
Oh, yeah.
probably that.
And it's time for our final question of the day. If you were talking to a younger version of you, what advice would you give yourself?
I would tell her to care less about what other people think and to not let that hold you back from doing what makes you happy. Really just go for it.
Amazing. That's all the time we have, but before we go, do you have any final words of wisdom you'd like to leave our audience with?
I would probably just reiterate what I would say to my younger self. Don't let any other people hold you back and really just do what makes you happy. If you don't try, you will never know. So always give it a shot.
Awesome.